We have Adam Krim with us, and Adam is kind of an expert at networking, which is something everyone does, but everyone could do a lot better. So, Adam, are you there?
I am here.
Okay, you want to talk to us about networking? I actually saw a presentation that you did for WWBA several years ago, and I thought it was terribly helpful. I thought I was a good networker until I heard you talk, and then I wasn't so sure after that. But I've tried to use your suggestions.
Well, that's great to hear, Susan. It is great. It's a skill that welcomes repeated practice. How's that? It's the more you do it, the better you'll be at it. The more comfortable we all get at it. The more we do it, and doing it, of course, with the right attitude and approach. And that's some of the things that we'll talk about during this presentation. This is all, of course, in preparation for the speed networking event that the WWBA will hold on November 10th. Correct?
Right.
And
we're so happy to have you with us to do that. That's kind of a new thing for us. And as I've said to people, I know what you do, but I don't know very much about it. So it'll be a great time to talk in depth with our other members.
Wonderful. Looking forward to it. Okay, so shall we begin?
Yep.
Okay, so let's start with the negative of what networking is not. Often people have this almost a visceral negative reaction to networking. People think of work. If I date myself, I'd refer to Dobie Gillis. Work, something that people don't like doing. Networking is not that. It's not work, as in not fun. It's not about, this is the most important thing, it's not about finding a job or a client. Often people go to networking events and judge their performance by the number of leads they walk away with or job offers they walk away with. And that's not what networking is about. Similarly, network is not a purely social event. There are some networking groups that meet, and you go there, and it's a cocktail party, and it has the feel of a purely social event, and that's not what networking is. So let's look at what networking really is. That'll be the next slide. It's all about connecting. It's about developing relationships. It's about learning and about educating. So you're connecting with whom? With the people there. You're developing relationships. It is. We're doing the event that we're going to have is speed networking, taken from the speed dating format. The relationship between networking and dating is apt. It's all about developing a relationship that does take time. The more time you spend developing the relationship, the richer that relationship will be, and the more rewarding it will be for all parties to that relationship.
So I should really be thinking about who this person is in front of me and what they are saying to me. Like I should be spending like how much time listening and how much time kind of presenting myself, because it's the presenting myself that makes me nervous.
And listening to the other person present, that you're good with that?
Well, I probably think I'm better than I am. Do you know what I mean? Like I always fall into the trap of thinking what I'm going to say next rather than concentrating on what they say. I mean, that's a constant struggle.
And you're not alone in that, Susan. That is pretty much a universal symptom that people have, whether it's in standard conversation or in networking types, professional conversations, where listening and part of our brain is just keeping tabs on something, just the cadence of the other person's speech without paying much attention to the words. And when we hear a silence developing, we feel the urge to jump in and contribute, to fill that silence. Part of it is that's because most people are not comfortable with silence.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, I was in leadership in Westchester a couple of years ago, and we had like a whole unit on listening. And I found after a while that listening is sort of a skill. If I said before I entered into a conversation with somebody, if I said in my own mind, this time, I don't care what I say. I don't care what I say to this person. All I'm going to do is listen. And I focused on listening rather than talking. It was like a whole new world opened up. You know what? It was a whole different conversation.
Correct.
So that's like something I could practice in advance of this speed networking seminar.
Well, absolutely. Listening is definitely a skill. There are good listeners. What is a good listener? This is a great jump-off question. We can have a sidebar on that. In this context of networking, what you're listening for, that's the learning part. typically, the unwritten rule of networking is each person, if there are two people having a networking conversation, each person will take half the time allotted and talk about themselves, what it is they do, what they're looking for. The other person's job during those, say, 15-minute talk is to listen carefully to what the other person is saying, and not to say, well, I have no need for this person's skill set, but rather, how can I help this person? What can I do to help this person achieve the goals that the person has? The next step is educating. That's when the tables turn, and now it's my turn to speak. And I'm not necessarily looking to land the other person as a client, rather teach that person what it is I do, why I do it. We'll talk more about that in a few minutes. But these are the four aspects of networking. It's about connecting with other people. It's about developing relationships, which does take time. There was a time, 15 perhaps years ago, 10 years ago, maybe even, where to land a sale, you needed a minimal number of points of contact, 5 points of contact perhaps. Today the number is up to 7 or 8, which means every time we meet and talk, that's a separate point of contact. So whether it's at the meeting itself, whether it's a follow-up email, whether it's a phone call, further meetings and email conversations, these are all separate points of contact. And it takes people these days something in the neighborhood of 7 or 8 contact times, points of contact, to be ready to push the button, hit the button and say, I want to hire you.
Well, why did that happen that way? I mean, why did it go up? Because we're all in such an avalanche of information, and we don't have the opportunity to connect with each point as we did in the past?
Correct. We're inundated with emails. How many emails do you receive in your inbox every day? And how many of those, how many do you actually read? And of those, how many read carefully and respond in an appropriate manner and in a timely manner? We're so overloaded by things that we all miss certain emails that had we paid more attention to them, might have led us to land a sale or new clients sooner. This is just a function of how much information we are inundated with.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it points now to for our purposes, that networking it takes time. I won't say it's time consuming. It does take time though, and time well spent can mean less time spent doing it and develop a deeper relationship. So there are 3 types of different networking events. There's the formal networking event. These are regular meetings with the same core group of people. Groups like Business Networking International, BNI,
yeah,
popular networking group out there. They typically meet 7 in the morning for an hour and a half every week. The same group of people every week. The good thing is that you, over time, get to know the people very, very well if you listen carefully. The downside is familiarity breeds contempt. The more we meet with people and listen to them say the same 2-minute pitch, the same elevator pitch, we stop listening because we know what they're going to say. It's the same thing every single week. And once we stop listening, paying attention, we miss the meeting. And we're not there.
Absolutely. Well, I've been in those groups, and I think they were ready to pitch me out because I wasn't bringing them enough leads. Like I felt like pressure in that group to make everybody's career around me blossom, or else I was out.
Right. Some groups are very strict on that. BNI officially is very, very strict about that. Some chapters of BNI are more lax. Others follow the rule book. And the rule book is if you don't bring in a certain number of leads for other people, let alone referrals, and they make that distinction. The lead is, hey, I heard of somebody who might be interested in you too. Here's a referral. This is someone who's looking for someone who does what you do, and I'm giving you their name, and I'm giving them your name. That's BNI will have very strict rules, and some other groups do as well. Others are more lax about it and saying it's the passing of leads and referrals can become more grassroots and more organic because, frankly, this is why we're in networking groups. We're not there to make friends. We become friendly with the people, but it's not about making friends. The second type of group is an informal ad hoc meeting. And these are occasional meetings with different core people. This can be a holiday party, whether from a client of yours, or if you're the client with many, if you're the promoter of the holiday party, you might want to bring together all of your clients. So it's an occasional meeting. They're not every week or even every month. They're several times a year, perhaps. and there's a rotating door of people. The beauty of that is you meet more people by going to the groups. The challenge there is that every time you go, you're starting from scratch because you don't really know or remember the people unless you have followed up and built relationships over time. And that's where the connecting relationships comes into play. Yes, Susan, I'm sorry.
This informal, this middle bullet here, this is kind of like the WWBA general membership meetings. So they're occasional and they're very topically different, and you're going to get different core people every time, but they do come sort of regularly.
Right. So the question then is in the shareholders meeting, the membership meetings, how much time is allowed for people to mingle, to move around, not sitting at the table, but rather to move around the room and talk. That's when the real networking takes place. If we're sitting around the table, we'll talk to the person on either side of us, maybe to someone across the table. Further down, though, it becomes a challenge to have the kind of conversation that would be meaningful in a networking perspective.
I see. So we should, when we design our general membership meetings, we really should put some networking time in the beginning and the end so people can kind of cement the kind of budding relationships that they've started with new people.
I think that would be a great idea, and I think the members would find it incredibly helpful. And again, if their measure of success is how many people did I get to know better who might be able to help me and whom I might be able to help in the future, that's the standard. That's the measure of success, as opposed to I'm looking for clients. I went to 3 of these membership meetings, didn't get a single phone call or referral. No one even asked for my business card, therefore it's a failure. That's not the standard. The measure of success, again, is am I building a relationship that can stand the test of time, a professional relationship. Now, over time, professional relationships do become personal friendships. And
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
The likability factor is huge. We do business with people we like. If I don't like someone, and if someone doesn't like me, the chances of our doing business together is fairly remote.
True. I have enough people that I have to deal with that I don't like in my normal life. Mm-hmm. If I have a choice, I'm going to go with people I like.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We have 24 hours in a day. How many of those hours do you want to spend with people you don't like? Most
0.
people will say
0, but how many? Don't ask me how many I spend with people I don't like.
Exactly. Yeah. So we want to build. Well, go back to this. There's one more.
You want to talk? Okay.
So so spend time. That's the key here. Networking takes time. The third type of networking group is a targeted group, and this is a more challenging meeting to find. This is a strategic meeting designed to put you in touch with your ideal clients. So there's several steps involved here. One is you've got to know who are your ideal clients. 2, who are the gatekeepers to those clients? Who knows the people who can make the decision to hire you or not? And then once you get to that meeting, some of you find here there's a meeting taking place next Tuesday evening, and it's got all the gatekeepers for your clients and all your ideal clients. The CEOs are all there. That's the place you want to be. Great. You show up. What do you do then? How do you speak to the people? How do you get in touch with them? There isn't necessarily going to be a round table where you have a chance to stand up and have everyone's attention. So there, it's more challenging. You'd have to, what I suggest people to do is they reach out to the organizer of these meetings and say, I looked over the list. I'd like to meet people A, B, C, and D. Those are the 4 people I really would like to meet. Can you introduce me? Will you introduce me to them?
Oh, that's a great idea, because that at least gets you thinking about who are my ideal clients. I mean, that sort of assumes a great deal of knowledge before you get there, like who am I, what do I want, and how am I going to get there? And what you're saying is do the work before the meeting to make sure that you're going to get there.
Absolutely right. It's all about goal setting. What is your goal for that networking meeting, that networking event? If you don't know what your goal is, stay home, watch TV, eat milkshakes and chocolate chip cookies, because that's about as much as you can do. That'll be as helpful to you in getting in moving your career forward as going to a meeting without preparing in advance. Especially in these targeted meetings where there isn't a showcase for you. There isn't necessarily going to be a showcase for you. The formal meetings or the informal ones, which are typically around a table, there you'll have an opportunity to stand up and speak. On the targeted ones, and even some of the ad hoc and informal ones, perhaps you won't have that opportunity. You'll be more on your own, so you'll be well advised to do your homework in advance, know who's going to be there, and if you don't know, how can you find out?
I see. So, how would you categorize our speed networking? So you're in the room with a bunch of peers, and you're going to spend a limited amount of time with them. But, I mean, you really could build a friendship. You really could build a relationship.
Oh, you can build a relationship anywhere with anybody. You can drive the subway every day or on the Metro North and build a friendship because you're going to meet the same people. Typically, we human beings are predictable. Most of us at least have set schedules. We're on the train the same hour every day. So you can meet somebody there, and over time, you'll say hello, and because certainly commuting is a more challenging way to meet people, but it can be done. The targeted meetings where you're invited to a meeting, you know the organizer, because the organizer invited you. Ask the organizer who's going to be there, or a better question would be, I'm looking for these types of people. This, organizer, who's going to be there, who fits into this category of people, and will you introduce me to them? I
see. Like you could say, are there going to be any accountants there, any CPAs? I would really like to meet them, because they're kind of a feeder for your practice.
Exactly. And the organizer is going to be very happy to make that introduction, because the organizer wants the meeting to be a success. And if he can help two people out, or one person out, by introducing that person to the people that the person wants to meet, then the organizer is well on the way to making a successful event. He's going to go out of his way, or she will go out of her way, to make that happen.
I see. So you're engineering success for both sides. Okay.
That's the win-win.
You ready for the next slide?
You want to look for the win-win.
Okay.
So we talked about setting goals. You have to set goals for networking. You have to set goals for everything you do, or else it's a crapshoot whether you'll succeed or not. So the first idea in setting a goal is be courageous. Don't be afraid. How many people are afraid to speak up in the front of a room of strangers, or to walk around a room full of strangers and introduce yourself?
Yeah, a lot of people.
We all have that fear. We have to get past the fear, because fear creates the biggest losers. I go to an event and there are drinks. I stock up on drinks and food. We'll talk more about that later on. And I talk to the same 5 people I knew going in. You'll see that all the time. The same group of 5, they walk around the room together, they talk and drink and laugh together. They have a great old time. How many new people have they met? How
zero.
are their networking goals? So you must not be afraid. You must be courageous. Develop and utilize the Maven, Connector, and Salesperson skills as appropriate. These terms come from Malcolm Gladwell's book, The Tipping Point. The Maven is the person who knows everything. We all know people like that. This is the person who knows everything about this topic, everything there is to know. You have a question on what car to buy, this guy knows all the cars. You have a question for what accountant to hire, this guy knows all the accounting firms on the East Coast, let alone just in New York. And that person can give you the ins and outs of the thing you're looking for, of the concept. The next group is the connector. Connector is the person with that huge Rolodex. The person knows hundreds, if not thousands, of people, and knows them well enough so when you speak with the connector is immediately going to start rifling through the Rolodex, say which of my connections. So I'm the connector. Which of my connections can help the other person? So you and I talking, Susan, I'll run through all of my contacts in my head as we're talking and say, no, Susan, I know people X, Y, and Z who might be helpful to you. Would you like to meet them? If I make that offer, what will your response be, Susan?
Thank you very much. I mean, that's lovely. And also, I would be sort of complimented that you heard what I said.
Mm-hmm. Right. Now, why would I do that? Why would I go out of my way and listen to what you have to say and offer to introduce you to somebody who might be helpful to you? Why would I possibly do that?
It's part of your nature, and you like it, and you hope to build your relationship with me, and maybe I'll refer someone to you in the future because I know that you're a connector.
Excellent. Exactly right. And basic human characteristics, human nature. If you help me, I'm going to feel indebted to you. I'm going to feel I owe you. You helped me out. Now I owe you. I've got to help you out. Otherwise, I'm just a moocher. I'm just taking and taking. Nobody likes to just take. We all like to give.
Oh, I don't know. I can mooch. I can be a moocher. I try to avoid it, though. I try to avoid it. I try.
Imagine living a life only as a moocher.
I want to talk about salesperson, but like, are people primarily one of these? Like, they're the most comfortable with one of these, or do people like move around between the three of them depending on the aspect of their life?
We all move around. There are some topics that everyone's a maven about some topic, and everyone is a connector with certain groups of people. Salespeople skills are everyone's also is a salesperson, but there's a caveat with sales because I believe it's a standard throughout Western society. We as professionals we kind of look down on salespeople because they're selling things without any regard to what the prospective buyer really needs. There's that stereotypical, not to offend anybody, but the used car salesman.
Right.
That when we think of sales, that's most people think of. The reality is we're all salespeople, and if we're in the room on November 10th, I'll ask, who here is a salesperson? And every hand should be raised because we all sell ourselves. When we network, we're selling ourselves, our skill set, our experience, ourselves as individuals. So how do you sell this? So I can sell myself. I can be a salesperson when I'm selling the specific solution to the buyer's problem. If I'm just selling,
it's kind of like a selective maven.
Correct. Well, selective maven, selective connector, selective salesperson on specific topics. There are some people who are they're walking encyclopedias. They know everything about everything. There are certain people who've got connections all around the world for every different field and topic. And there are some people who can sell anything. Most of us aren't like that. Most of us are specific. We can sell certain things. We can sell ourselves in certain situations. We can connect certain people with others. And we know we're mavens on certain topics, not on a broad range necessarily. The idea here is to know where your skill set is and utilize the skills, because we do have these abilities, every one of us, the maven, connector, and salesperson skills. Use them as necessary and as appropriate. That will help to find other people, and if you can make a connection for somebody else, they're going to want to connect you with somebody who will help you.
So a little self-thought before the meeting about, gosh, I know a fair amount about this. I could be a maven. I could help other people around me if they ask about this topic. So I would know some areas where I was a maven. And then the connector would be think about who else I know and think about how I could put the people that I meet at the speed networking thing together with the people that I already know. And then the salesperson would be how I can discuss the things I know in a helpful way.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay.
Another way of looking at it is in each of us in our area of our practice area, we all should be mavens in our practice area. We all should know everything there is to know about our practice area. Not everything there is to know, obviously we continue learning, but a fair amount, more than the average person. We all should be able to connect others in that same practice area.
Especially around the edges, right? Like I realize where my practice areas kind of slide into, I need an accountant now. I don't know enough about 1031 exchanges to know the specifics, so I need to bring somebody else in.
Mm-hmm. Right. Somebody as needed, correct. And within that area of the practice area, you can sell your skills within that practice area because you know the issues.
I see. Okay.
We all have that. How do we develop and expand it so that we can help others even if they work in a different practice area?
Okay, I understand. But again, this is an argument for sitting down and thinking about who am I and what do I bring to the table and what do I want to accomplish on November 10th.
Absolutely.
Kind of a self-development thing. Okay.
It's all about selling the goal, knowing the goal and realizing the goal.
Okay.
So how do you know? First thing is to dress appropriately and arrive on time. So what is appropriate dress for a networking event? What do you think it is?
Well, it encompasses who I am. If I'm a lawyer, I'm going to look fairly, how would I describe it? Like buttoned down, like I'm an organized person and this is how I present myself. If I'm an artist, it would be out of character for me to present myself in a suit. It's appropriate to the people that you're going to meet and who you are. It's an expression. It's one more way to communicate who you are.
Okay, that's good. Now, what about if the networking event is a cocktail party at night? How would you dress?
Yeah, pretty conservatively. I dressed as comfortably as I could.
Okay, let's say the networking event is on the golf course. It's a golf outing. How would you dress?
I'd still wear my cocktail dress. That's the wrong answer, isn't it?
On the greens, right? As your
exactly. Yeah, you would dress appropriate for the event that you're going to.
Exactly. For the event, dress appropriately. So often it'll be business casual. Sometimes it'll be a more formal attire. Sometimes it can be jeans and a T-shirt. It depends what the event is. Arrive on time. The event is from, let's take our event on the 10th. The hour, it goes from 6 to 8, correct?
Correct.
So what time should people arrive?
5:45.
5:45. So the late person will say, well, why? If it starts at 6, till things get rolling, it'll be 6:15, so I'm going to shoot for 6:15. And what would the response be? Why would that not be?
Well, what if you get delayed?
Yeah.
And I mean, you're making this big effort to get to a place after work at night, and you want to use it to the fullest that you can. So why rush in the door like a crazy person and yell, "Where's my first meeting?" and disrupt the whole thing? Like, get yourself organized and get yourself prepared, and calmly be able to participate when the first meeting starts.
Correct. It's all about preparation. You're absolutely right. Now, what if it's a large? Let's say it's a large group. It's not our networking event on the 10th, but rather there'd be a holiday party.
Okay.
And it starts at 6. So if people arrive at 6, they want to be fashionably late, they'll arrive at 6:15, 6:20. They'll walk into a room that's half full with people talking already. You might have 50 people in the room already by the time you get there at that point. How do you break into conversations when people are already in the middle of meeting and networking together? It's a bigger challenge. If you get there early, you can not only choose as people start I won't say pairing off, but in smaller groups to have conversations, meaningful conversations. You can choose as the groups are forming which one to join. You can actually be on the welcoming committee, an informal. As someone comes in, welcome them. They'll look to you because you're there already. Not just getting there and getting stuff. You're there. You've got your name tag on, and you're ready to network. If you extend your hand to somebody who walks in the door to introduce yourself, they'll assume that you're someone they would want to know. So
right.
It's about presentation. It's about creating an environment that will be open and make it easier for you to network. The learning aspect of networking, you ask open-ended questions. Now, the question, what is an open-ended question? An open-ended question?
I'm trying to think of some while you say that. Open-ended, like just let the person talk like as much as they possibly can.
Right. So ask a question that cannot be answered with a yes or a no. Not that it won't, but cannot be. So don't say, are you having a good time? Are you having a good time here tonight? The person say yes, no, or eh. If, however, you say, well, what do you like about what are you enjoying about this evening? Now that takes the person's got to think. And when the person then starts answering, they can give you a lot of information to work with. Because it won't be a simple yes or a no. What do you like about it? How could this evening be better? Now they've got to think even more. And that can open up a wonderful conversation. And the more you have, the more conversation you have with the person, the better you'll get to know the person. You may not get to talk about what it is you do and what you're looking for until several minutes into the conversation. And those are the best types of networking moments because you're getting to know each other. And then by the time you say, hey, I like this person. This person's got a good conversationalist. He's got interesting points, interesting questions. What do you do for a living?
And then you're practicing your listening too. You're really trying to think hard about what can I do for this person.
Right, while not taking time away or energies away from actually listening to what the person said. You have to be in the moment. I don't like using words have to, but in this case I will use those words. To get the most out of networking, you have to listen to every word that's being spoken. And at the same time, think how you'll respond to the question or to the statement. But for the most part, listen, take notes, compartmentalize the information you're receiving, and then utilize it later on. Listen to the answers and remember names. Now, listening to answers is fairly easy. You ask a question, the person gives an answer. So many people ask the question, they're thinking, what's my next question going to be? And they miss the answer. So ask the question and then stay quiet and let the other person answer. And if there's silence for a moment or two, enjoy the silence.
Yeah, so be it.
Yeah, it gives the other person time to structure their answer, their response to your question. Names are important. Many people, myself, I'm in this group, have trouble with names. If people all had numbers, I used to teach martial arts to kids, and I told the students at the very beginning, it'll take me up to 6 months to remember your names. Please do not be offended. If you had numbers instead of names, I'd remember you right away. So one white collar kid said, my name is not Joe, my name is 32751. I said, great, 32751, nice to meet you, my name is Adam, and we'll talk. And the number stays in my head. Names, that's one of my challenges, is to remember names. There are tricks to remember names. When you speak to someone, Susan, repeat their name several times while you're speaking. So Susan, while we're talking, I'm mentioning your name, and that will cement your name and face in my brain and connect it.
Yeah, to use it. I remember the last time that I saw you present for WWBA, you started by saying, how many people like the sound of their name? And like 2 or 3 hands went up. Then you pointed around the rest of the room and said, liar, 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 liar. Everybody likes the sound of their own name. It was so funny.
And how many people like talking about themselves? All socialized, not like talking about ourselves. We are all socialized, especially in our, again, maybe it's generational, but we're socialized. Don't talk about yourself. You don't brag. Just kind of, people will get to know you and they'll like you. Don't talk about it, and we learn not to like talking about ourselves. The reality is we all love talking about ourselves. Someone says, tell me about yourself, what it is, who you are, what you do, and they're giving you 5 minutes where they will not interrupt you. You're going to want 10 minutes to talk, or 15, because we all love talking about it, but we don't want to admit it. Networking gives you that opportunity to talk about yourself. When you ask, who is it, what do you do? So talk about it. You've been given the platform, you've given the stage and the microphone. Use it and enjoy it. It has to be it. If it's not fun, make it fun. Figure out a way to enjoy it.
You really should think some about what makes you interesting, right? I mean, that's another point of preparation for this. Like, what would other people like to know about me?
Right. What's something, and that's a great thing to do in networking. It's not just about business. You can ask a legitimate networking question, be, what do you do for fun? What hobbies do you have? That fills you out as a human being. And
absolutely. To have a few things that are a little bit out of the normal. This is what I did all today.
Right.
This is what I really love, or this is what I'm looking forward to, or if I had all the time in the world, I would do this.
Mm-hmm. And that fills you out. That fleshes you out as a human being to the other person, and it gives the other person a wealth of information and opportunities to reach out to you. If I know you're interested in skydiving, and I see an article about skydiving in the paper, first thing I'm going to do if I'm impressed by you is say, hey, Susan, the next day is an email. I enjoyed meeting you last night at the meeting. And by the way, in case you haven't seen, I read an article in the Times yesterday about networking, or Sunday's Time about networking. Here's a link in case you missed it.
Okay. Yeah, and social media really lends itself to that kind of thing.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely does. Because on social media, if you're active in social media, you post not just professional things. You post what you like doing, what you're doing this evening or over the weekend, because you want to share it with the world. And it makes you human. It provides a window into who you are as a human being, not just who you are as an attorney.
Okay. Right.
Don't monopolize the conversation or the other person's time. We've all met people like this who glom on, who just don't let go, who keep talking and keep talking and keep talking, and don't pick up the hints that you're giving. It's time to move on. So don't be that person. Don't monopolize. You're there, spend a few minutes talking, 5 minutes talking to somebody, and then and then say pleasure meeting you, and then you decide whether to exchange business cards. We'll talk about that in a bit.
Okay.
But don't start giving out the business card right away, and don't sell. That's a huge no-no in networking, is selling. That's not what you're there for. And I went to a networking group once. It was billed as a networking event down through a meetup meeting. I was down on Houston Street, actually. So it was just, I guess still in the Village, not Soho, but on the border there, at some bar in the back room. So I spent like an hour there walking around, meeting people, talking to people. Had very much a feel of a social event rather than networking. And when I went outside, there was a guy out there, and he asked, "Hey, were you in that meetup meeting inside?" I said, "Yes, I was." He said, "Well, when you're looking for insurance, here's my card. Give me a call." I said, "Well, why didn't you go in and meet everybody there?" He said he didn't want to put out the $25 for the entrance fee.